DEA officer stopped at our farm yesterday. I need to inspect your farm for illegal growing drugs. I said, okay, but don't go in that field over there. The DEA officer verbally exploded, saying, Mister, I have the authority of the federal government with me. Reaching into his back pocket, the officer pulled out his badge and shoved it in my face. See this badge? This badge means I'm allowed to go wherever I wish, on any land. No questions asked or answers given. Do I make myself clear? Do you understand?
I nodded politely, apologized, and went about my chores. A short time later, I heard loud screams, looked up, and saw the DEA officer running for his life, being chased by my big old mean bull. With every step, the bull was gaining ground on the officer, and it seemed likely that he'd get gored before reaching safety. The officer was clearly terrified, so I threw down my tools, ran to the fence, and shouted at the top of my lungs, "Your badge, show him your fucking badge. Typos." A duck walks into a pub. He hops onto the bar stool and says to the bartender, "Pint, please, mate." The barman looks at him in utter shock. "But you're a duck, how are you The duck stops him. Yeah, I get it all the time, mate. I'm a bricklayer, and there's a new housing estate being built not too far away from here. And to be honest, I've had a hard day. I'd just like a couple of pints in peace, please." Barman pours his pint and doesn't ask anything more. The duck comes in every night after work for his 2 pints and then goes home. On the Saturday, a ringmaster of a circus comes into the pub and asks the barman if he can hang his posters in his window to advertise his show. The barman sees an opportunity and explains to the ringmaster he has the perfect act for him, a talking duck. The ringmaster couldn't pass up an opportunity like this. He makes thousands. The barman asks to share the money he would make for getting the ringmaster his star attraction. The ringmaster agrees and they shake on it. The following Monday, the duck comes back in after his shift at work. "I've got a right job for you," he says. "Oh yeah? What's that then?" asks the duck. "A circus," the barman replies excitedly. The duck looks at the barman in confusion and asks, "A circus with clowns?" "Yeah," says the barman. "With the big tent?" "Yeah," says the barman. "Move from town to town with performing animals?" Yeah, exactly," says the barman. The duck looks up at him and says, "What the fuck do they want a bricklayer for?" A man foolishly asked his wife why she kept staring out of the window. Taking a very deep breath, she replied, "I'm really fed up with the state of Mrs. Brown's blinds. Mrs. Perkins aren't much better. And that Mrs. Lewis, scruffy cow. Look at them, filthy. They're just not house-proud like me. Dirty blinds are such an eyesore. If you were a real man, you'd go over and get them to do something about it. In fact, you must. I won't stand for it any longer. I'll tell you what," her husband said as he peered through the window beside her, "I'll see what I can do." The following morning, she approached him, beaming. "I can't believe it. The blinds. They're all immaculate. What did you say to those women?" "Nothing," he told her. "I just cleaned the window." Two good friends, Dave and Brian, were talking one evening. Dave mentioned he's been reading a lot lately, so Brian asked, "Oh yeah? What's your favorite book?" "50 Shades of Grey, no question," answered Dave. "What? How can that be your favorite book? I thought that was some trashy Twilight fan fiction or something," exclaimed Brian. "I don't know. I've never read it," Dave said calmly. "What? If you've never read it, how can it possibly be your favorite book?" demanded Brian. "I never read it, but my girlfriend has." As he pushes his wailing child through the supermarket, a young father repeats softly, "Don't get excited, Josh. Don't scream, Josh. Keep calm, Josh." A fellow shopper, impressed by the father's calm demeanor, says, "You should be commended for trying to soothe your son." The father replies, "I'm Josh." A boxer desperate for money. He was so desperate that turned to underground fights. One of the promoters suggested that he could make more if he fought animals in the cage. So the boxer reluctantly agreed to fight an old circus bear. The fight was vicious. There was blood and fur all over the place. The crowd was wild because the forest animals came to watch the fight. Finally, the boxer punched the old bear with all his might,
killing the beast. The promoter handed over a fat wad of cash to the boxer. Seeing the boxer's guilt, he said, "Don't feel bad, he was old and was going to die soon anyway." But the boxer knew that it was his cross to bear. The mayor wanted to get more townspeople to attend the city council meetings. One council member suggested bringing in a hypnotist to do a show for everyone. They thought it was a great idea. A few weeks later, the town hall was packed, and the people were fascinated as the hypnotist took out a pocket watch and began to chant, "Watch the watch, watch the watch, watch the watch." The crowd grew mesmerized as the watch swayed back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Suddenly, the hypnotist's fingers slipped, and the watch fell to the floor. "Crap," he said. "It took 3 weeks to clean up the town hall." A holy man visits the desert. He gets to the outpost at the edge and is greeted by the shopkeeper. "If you are going to the desert, my friend, you will need supplies, food and water, a tent for shelter at night." The holy man holds up his hands and declines. "I shall not take your wares, my friend. I shall instead pray to God, for God hears prayers and answers them." He sets off into the desert, and the sun beats down on him all day and dries his skin and eyes. Eventually, another traveler finds him and stops him. "It's a good job I found you. You're not far from death's door. Please, have some of my water and my food." The holy man declines. "I do not need your food or water, for I shall pray for these from God and he will provide. God hears prayers and answers them." The holy man keeps going, his body now very weak and frail from all the heat. But now night is descending, and the cold winds howl at his sides. In the distance, 2 wolves are watching the holy man struggle through the dunes. "Finally," thinks one of the wolves, "our prayers have been answered." Little Timmy is always being teased by the neighborhood boys for being stupid. Their favorite joke is to offer Timmy a choice between a nickel and a dime. Timmy always takes the nickel. One day, after he does it again, a neighbor pulls him aside and says, "Timmy, those boys are making fun of you. Don't you know a dime is worth more than a nickel, even though the nickel is bigger?" Timmy grins and says, "Well, if I took the dime, they'd stop doing it. And so far I've made $20. I can't correct the typo in the title." A Texas farmer went on vacation to Australia. He met up with an Australian farmer who proudly showed off his wheat field. "That's nothing," said the Texan. "Back home, we have wheat fields that are twice as large as this." Next, the Australian pointed out his cattle. "They're nothing," said the Texan. "Back home, we have longhorns that are twice as big as your cows." Just then, half a dozen kangaroos bounded across the road. "What are those?" asked the Texan. The Australian replied, "Don't you have grasshoppers in Texas?"